If you told me a year ago that the woman I loved would one day toast to my humiliation in front of her family, I'd have laughed it off. Or maybe cried. I honestly don't know which would have felt more fitting. My name's Kyle, I'm 36, and I used to believe in fairy tales. The kind where you marry your best friend, grow old together, and weather whatever life throws at you. Turns out, I was the only one in our story reading the same book. I thought our 7th wedding anniversary would be another quiet celebration. Maybe a dinner at our favorite spot by the harbor, or a movie night at home, her curled up beside me like she always used to on chilly evenings. I didn't expect a party, and I definitely didn't expect a spectacle. But before we get there, before the champagne glasses clinked and my wife delivered her little speech, I need to rewind. Because I don't want you thinking this came out of nowhere. The signs were there. Hindsight has a way of spotlighting all the red flags you ignored in real time. I met Lauren when we were both 27. She worked in marketing, sleek, driven, always the smartest person in any room. I was the quieter one, an engineer, more comfortable solving systems than navigating social circles. But we clicked. She said I made her feel calm, grounded. I told her she made me feel seen. That was enough, back then. Our first few years were golden. She laughed at my dry jokes, called me her safe place, and I thought we were invincible. We weren't rich, but I had started a small automation company with a couple of old college buddies, and it was growing slowly but steadily. She was killing it at her agency, rising through the ranks. We bought a modest house in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing extravagant, just ours. We shared dreams like people share coffee, every morning, effortlessly. But things started shifting around year 5. At first, it was little things. Lauren would roll her eyes when I brought up work. Not in a mean way, just disinterested. Dismissive. If I had a tough day dealing with a bug in our latest software patch or a setback with a client, she'd say things like, maybe you should let someone else handle that part, or, you stress too much over boring stuff. I chalked it up to stress. Her job was demanding, and we'd just started trying for a baby, which brought its own pressure. Then came the family gatherings. Lauren's family was always a bit intense. Her mother, Cynthia, was the kind of woman who wore diamonds to Sunday brunch and never missed a chance to comment on someone's outfit or income. Her brother, Logan, was a finance bro caricature, always talking about leveraging assets and making passive income off other people's labor. Her dad, Martin, was quieter but seemed to carry the same air of superiority, like everyone else was playing life on easy mode and they were competing on a higher level. From day one, I could tell I wasn't their ideal pick for Lauren. I didn't come from money. My parents were public school teachers. I wasn't flashy. I wore sneakers to their fancy dinner parties. I drank beer instead of wine. But Lauren always told me it didn't matter. They don't get to choose who makes me happy, she'd whisper, and for a while, I believed her. But at a family barbecue 2 years ago, something shifted. Logan made a snide remark about how tech guys are just blue-collar with Wi-Fi, and when I laughed it off, Lauren didn't defend me. In fact, she laughed too. Not nervously, not out of politeness. She genuinely found it funny. I remember looking at her, trying to catch her eye, and she just turned away to get another drink. I let it go. One joke, I told myself. Don't be sensitive. But then came Thanksgiving. Cynthia was hosting, and everything was, as usual, over the top. Caterers, a string quartet, gold-trimmed napkins. At dinner, Cynthia turned to me and said, "So Kyle, still tinkering with wires and circuits? Or has your little company finally gotten out of the garage?" She smiled sweetly, but her eyes were sharp. Lauren didn't say a word. In fact, she changed the subject to how Logan just closed a big deal in New York. That night, on the way home, I brought it up. I told Lauren it bothered me that her family treated me like some underachieving intern. She sighed. "Kyle, they're just joking. Can't you take a joke?" I asked her if she respected what I did. She hesitated, just for a second, but it was there. "I do," she finally said. "But let's be honest, your company isn't exactly Google." That one stung. Not because I needed her to hype me up all the time, but because I thought she saw how hard I was working, how much I was building, not just for myself, but for us. I started staying late at the office more. It wasn't to avoid her, not at first. I was just focused. We were on the verge of signing a deal with a major logistics firm. It could double our revenue. Triple it, even. I didn't tell Lauren right away. I wanted it to be a surprise. Meanwhile, Lauren's wardrobe got pricier, her attitude sharper. She started going out more, said it was for networking, but I noticed she always got home later than she used to, often smelling of wine and some overpriced perfume I didn't recognize. One night, I came home to find she'd cleared a shelf in our shared office for her new vision board. It was filled with quotes like, "Don't settle," "Level up," and "Comfort kills ambition." Her laptop wallpaper was now a picture of some woman in heels standing on the edge of a rooftop overlooking a skyline. It felt ominous, like she was mentally climbing away from me. I tried suggesting we do date nights again. She said she was too busy. I booked a weekend getaway. She canceled last minute for a girls' trip. I asked if we could talk. She said, "We're just in different places right now. You focus on your company. Let me breathe." That should have been the wake-up call. But I kept holding on, thinking she'd come around. The final straw before everything spiraled was a dinner at her parents' place, about a month before our anniversary. I'd finally closed the logistics deal. My company was booming. We were hiring, scaling, even moving to a new office downtown. I was proud, and I thought, finally, this will be the moment her family sees me differently, respects me. At dinner, I mentioned the new deal. Cynthia gave me a polite smile. Logan smirked. "Congrats, man. Now maybe you can finally buy a real car." Lauren didn't say a word. In fact, she changed the topic again, this time to her new mentor, a CEO from her agency who was teaching her how to think bigger. That night, I told her how much that hurt. She just stared at me, quiet for a long moment, before saying, "Kyle, you're a good man. But maybe I need more than good." I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. That phrase haunted me. And then came our anniversary. She texted me a week before, saying she had a surprise planned. "We're something nice. Formal. You'll love it." I was hopeful. Maybe she'd remembered what we used to be. Maybe this was her trying. I showed up at the venue she texted me, an upscale lounge downtown. Everyone was there. Her family, some of her coworkers, even a few people I didn't recognize. The lights were low, the music elegant, the drinks flowing. And then, just as I was settling in, she tapped her glass. The room quieted. She stood in the center, radiant, smiling like it was the happiest day of her life. "Kyle," she said, turning to me. 7 years. It's been something. Laughter. Nervous. Confused. I smiled awkwardly. "And now," she continued, "I think it's time for both of us to step into who we were really meant to be." She reached into her bag, pulled out a manila envelope. "I'm upgrading my life," she said, lifting her glass. "To new beginnings." She handed me the envelope. Divorce papers. And the room erupted in cheers. Her brother clapped me on the back and muttered, "Took her long enough." Her mother sipped her wine, clearly enjoying the show. I didn't say a word. I just opened the envelope, skimmed it, signed, and walked out. I didn't look back. The night I walked out of that anniversary party, something inside me snapped. Not in the dramatic, throw-a-glass kind of way. Quietly. Internally. Like a wire that had been stretched too far for too long had finally gone taut, and snapped with a sound only I could hear. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just drove. No destination, no music, just the hum of the engine and the occasional vibration of my phone. Her texts, I figured. Or maybe just spam. I didn't check. That first week was a blur. I moved into the guest room at my friend Marcus's place. He offered without asking questions. Just threw me a spare key and said, "Stay as long as you need." I needed that kind of quiet support. I couldn't deal with pity or pep talks. My lawyer, thankfully a friend from college, reviewed the divorce papers and called me, baffled. She filed everything already. Like, everything. This wasn't spontaneous, Kyle. This was orchestrated. That word stuck with me. Orchestrated. It felt like the perfect term for what Lauren had done. Planned like a symphony of humiliation. Every note hit with precision. The timing, the audience, the toast. Even the party venue wasn't casual. It was a place we'd once said we'd book for our 10-year anniversary. Ironic. But here's the thing about me. I may be quiet. I may look like the guy who shrugs things off and keeps his head down. But I remember everything. I replay conversations. I catalog tone, inflection, pauses. I'm not a revenge kind of guy by nature. But when you burn every bridge and then light a firework on the ashes, I start taking notes. The weeks that followed were full of slow, quiet unraveling. I kept working. My company, Synchrobite Systems, was doing better than ever. That logistics contract turned into 3 more. We brought on 2 new developers and a client liaison. I moved out of Marcus's place and into a short-term rental while house hunting. I didn't tell anyone from Lauren's circle where I was. I deleted mutual contacts, changed my number, even left social media. Radio silence. That silence made people nervous, apparently. A month after the party, Logan, her brother, texted me out of the blue. Yo, you good? I didn't respond. 2 days later. You being salty or what? I still didn't reply. Then came the Instagram post. Lauren, standing on a rooftop with a drink in hand and a new caption. Soft life season. No deadweight allowed. Hundreds of likes. Her mom commented, proud of you, sweetheart nail polished. I remember looking at it for a long time, not because it hurt, but because it didn't anymore. Not like before. What hurt more was the realization that for years, I defended people who never once defended me. Then came the real gut punch. 3 weeks after the post, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a glossy invitation. Not just any invitation. It was for Logan's engagement party. Lauren had apparently helped plan it. Taped to the invite was a sticky note in familiar handwriting. No hard feelings. You're still welcome. Dress code, upscale. Don't embarrass yourself. I stared at it for a while. Then I laughed. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to show up at that party. But I wasn't going to disappear either. Instead, I got to work. I poured every ounce of myself into the company. Long hours. Strategic hires. I pulled off 3 major deals in 8 weeks. By month 4 post-divorce, Syncrobyte had grown so fast that we'd outgrown the downtown office space I was so proud of just a year ago. We started leasing a modern, glass-walled building on the edge of the business district. It had views of the skyline, a full espresso bar, and a rooftop garden that made that Instagram post of Lauren's look like a Motel 6 balcony. But the universe wasn't done yet. One afternoon, while I was reviewing floor plans for my new house, yes, house, because I was finally building my dream home, I got a call from Marcus. You might want to sit down, he said. Already am, I replied. You remember Lauren's company? The agency. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. They just laid off 30% of staff. Guess who was one of them? I blinked. No way. Oh yeah, budget cuts. New leadership. They axed the entire department she was climbing through. Apparently, her mentor jumped ship last month. Lauren's out. I didn't say anything. I didn't even know what to feel. Pity? Satisfaction? Emptiness. Then he added, Cynthia's spa closed too. Apparently some back taxes and shady bookkeeping. Within days, things began to unravel faster. Lauren's Instagram changed tone. No more rooftop cocktails or empowerment quotes. Just vague, moody captions. One read, not everything goes as planned. Just gotta keep going. No likes from Logan or Cynthia. Strange. A week later, I got another envelope in the mail. No return address again. Inside, a letter from a landlord. Apparently, Lauren had listed me as an emergency contact years ago when we rented a vacation place together. The letter explained that she defaulted on rent at her current apartment and that they were seeking to locate any related parties for contact information. It was addressed to me by mistake, but it told me everything I needed to know. Lauren was broke, or close to it. I didn't respond. But that night, I drove past the old apartment we used to share, the one she left after the divorce. It was dark, empty, and quiet. I parked down the street and watched for a while, unsure what I was even hoping to see. The next day, I checked public listings. She'd filed for unemployment. Her LinkedIn showed, open to work. Logan's engagement party had been canceled due to scheduling conflicts. Cynthia had deactivated her Facebook. It all felt surreal, but I still hadn't heard from Lauren directly. Not until month 6. It was raining. I'd just gotten home from a late dinner with clients. My new place was finally finished, a sleek, 2-story mansion on the edge of town with a long driveway and a black iron gate. I pulled in, tapped the remote, and the gate started closing behind me. That's when I saw her, standing in the rain, soaked, no umbrella, hair plastered to her face. She looked up as the lights from my car hit her. Lauren. She ran forward as the gate finished closing, her palms hitting the bars. Kyle, she shouted. I didn't move. I just sat in the car, hands on the wheel, heart suddenly heavy. She called again, this time quieter. Please, just talk to me. I didn't get out. I didn't even roll down the window. My phone buzzed. First 1 message, then 5. All from her. I'm sorry. Can we talk? I made a mistake. Please. I need help. I looked up at her, gripping the gate, crying. That same gate she'd metaphorically shoved me out of 6 months ago. Now it stood between us, physically, silently, as the rain poured down and she pleaded with the one person she'd once discarded for a photo op. I didn't open the window. I didn't open the gate. I just watched her messages roll in from the warmth of my car. But this wasn't the end. It was just the moment I realized the power dynamic had flipped. And for the first time, I held the pen in the story she once thought she was writing alone. For the first few minutes, I just sat there. Lauren's figure flickered through the rain-streaked windshield like a ghost, half real, half memory. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated, even. After all, wasn't this the moment every betrayed husband imagines in his darkest, sleepless hours? Her broken, me thriving, she begging at the gate I now owned. But what I felt wasn't pride. Not yet. It was tiredness, a kind of emotional fatigue that weighed down the moment. Maybe because it had taken everything to get here. 6 months ago, when I walked away from that anniversary party with divorce papers in hand and 1,000 fake smiles behind me, I didn't have a plan. I had some money, sure. A company that was doing okay. Friends who cared. But emotionally, I was hollowed out. Betrayal has a way of doing that. It's not just the act itself. It's the death of every belief that led up to it. The trust, the time, the tiny sacrifices you made believing they mattered. And for what? A toast. A punchline. So yeah, I hit rock bottom. But I did it quietly. No drinking binges. No rebound flings. I didn't burn her clothes or post passive-aggressive quotes online. That's not who I am. Instead, I folded into myself. I became surgical with my time, my emotions. My calendar filled with client calls and code reviews and strategic meetings, but my nights were silent. Lonely, even. I kept a spare toothbrush at Marcus's place for weeks longer than I needed to. Not because I didn't have anywhere else to go, but because I wasn't ready to call any place mine again. I started journaling. It's not something I ever thought I'd do, but my therapist, yeah, I started therapy too, recommended it. At first, it was just rage. Pages and pages of what I wished I'd said that night. Things like, how long did you plan it? Was I just a stepping stone for you? Did you ever really love me? Or just the version of me you thought you could upgrade from later? But over time, the rage turned into reflection. And then strategy. See, I realized something in that silence. I'd been shrinking for years. Playing small to keep the peace. Making myself easier to digest so Lauren wouldn't feel the need to spit me out. I had ambitions. Big ones. But I'd muted them because she once said, don't be one of those guys who thinks money fixes everything. So I worked hard, but never flashed it. I invested, but never celebrated. I'd downplay success so she wouldn't feel overshadowed. I was done with that. Syncrobite had potential, serious potential. And now, without the emotional drain of a toxic home life, I could pour myself into building it properly. I hired a leadership coach. Not some cheap motivational speaker, but a guy who'd helped startups scale fast and clean. He worked with me 3 times a week. We tore apart my systems, rebuilt hiring pipelines, restructured the dev teams, and negotiated new performance-based contracts that scaled with growth. Within 2 months, we doubled our client base. Within 3, we landed a tech integration deal with a regional hospital system. I didn't just rebuild, I transformed. And it wasn't just the business. I started lifting again. Nothing crazy, just strength training 3 mornings a week. It helped clear my head, gave me something to control when everything else felt unsteady. I took a cooking class. I know, it sounds random, but I was tired of takeout and sadness sandwiches. And something about learning how to perfect a risotto felt oddly empowering. I cut contact with Lauren entirely. Blocked numbers. Blocked emails. My lawyer handled the divorce logistics. I paid what I needed to, but not a cent more. She tried to negotiate for alimony at one point, claiming she'd supported me emotionally while I built my business. My lawyer laughed in the meeting. You mean the company you publicly mocked at family dinners? We offered a flat settlement instead. She took it, and I bought land. I didn't just want a new apartment or a fancy condo. I wanted permanence. I found a plot on the edge of the city, quiet, elevated, with a view of the skyline. Hired an architect. Gave them my dream. Open spaces, clean lines, lots of glass and light. A home built for peace. It became my obsession. I'd leave the office at 6 p.m. sharp just to drive out to the construction site. Watched every beam go up like it was part of me. Sometimes I bring a thermos of coffee and just sit in my car, imagining furniture layouts and weekend barbecues with friends. A future without apology. Meanwhile, whispers about Lauren started to reach me. Apparently, her mentor bailed on her right before the agency restructured. The position she thought she'd be promoted into vanished. Her network shrank. People started avoiding her calls. She'd gotten a reputation for being, well, ruthless, and not in the flattering sense. In marketing, you can be cold, but you can't be careless. And Lauren had gotten careless. One contact told me she tried launching her own consulting brand. Lasted 3 weeks. No clients. A few Instagram posts, then radio silence. And then I heard about Cynthia's mess. The spa she owned with her sister had been audited. Some shady write-offs, missed taxes, and a whole lot of debt under Cynthia's name. She tried to offload some blame onto Lauren, but Lauren wasn't listed as an owner. Cynthia ended up downsizing her home. Logan had to cancel his engagement party, not because of scheduling conflicts, but because the bride-to-be found out he'd been gambling their savings on crypto projects. It was like the whole family had built their lives on a pile of glitter and glass, and now the rain had come. But even then, I kept my distance. Until the house was done. Until I stood on that rooftop patio, looking out at the skyline with a glass of bourbon in hand, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not happiness, not yet, but peace. Then came that night in the rain. Lauren, soaked, begging, hands wrapped around the iron gate like a penitent trying to enter a sanctuary she once desecrated. And still, I didn't open the gate. I couldn't. Not yet. Because something about seeing her like that, so small, so desperate, flicked a switch in me. I remembered how she used to talk about me to her friends. The little comments like, he's great, but not very ambitious. Or, I love him, but sometimes I feel like I'm dragging him up with me. And now here she was. Homeless. Jobless. Crying. Not on some symbolic level, but literally crying in the rain outside the mansion she never saw being built. The old Kyle might have cracked. Might have pitted her. Might have thought this was his chance to be the bigger person. But the man she discarded at that party was gone. Buried under 6 months of silence, steel, and self-respect. I didn't let her in that night. But I didn't delete her messages either. I went inside. Took a hot shower. Ate reheated chicken marsala I'd made the night before. Sat at the grand oak desk in my study and opened my laptop. And then, out of morbid curiosity, I clicked on her LinkedIn. Still open to work. Still nothing new. Then I saw her new post. Just 3 lines. I messed up. Burned bridges I thought I'd never need again. If anyone's hiring, I'm available. Humbled. Ready. Dozens of reactions. A few "you got this" comments. But no offers. I closed the tab. Then my phone buzzed again. Another message from her. I'm sorry. I don't need anything. Just closure. Please. I didn't reply. I stared at the blinking cursor in the message box for a long time, my fingers hovering over the screen. But I didn't type. Instead, I looked around the study. Custom bookshelves, walnut flooring, tall glass windows with stormproof blinds. A house not built for revenge, but for a man who finally knew his worth. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. Not even closure. Not yet. The rain had stopped by morning, but the dried streaks of it on my gate and the muddy footprints just beyond it lingered like evidence. Evidence that she had been there. Evidence that she'd been willing to stand in the cold for over an hour, trying to catch my attention, something she used to take for granted when we were married. I didn't tell anyone about the visit at first. Not Marcus. Not my team. Not even my therapist. I needed time to process what it meant. Was it desperation? Manipulation? Guilt? Or maybe just her final Hail Mary because she had nowhere else to go? Whatever it was, it woke something in me. Not hate. Not pity. Just clarity. For months I'd been focused on rebuilding. On healing. On protecting my peace. But now, something had shifted. She had tried to publicly destroy me, and I had survived. Thrived, even. But survival wasn't the end. There was one piece missing. The final turning of the knife that would ensure I was never seen as the same Kyle she once mocked. I didn't want revenge for revenge's sake. I wanted something cleaner. Something permanent. Not a spectacle. Just justice. Something that would shift the story from Kyle the ex she humiliated to Kyle, the man who rose from ashes while she drowned in smoke. So I started planning. Step 1. Information. You can't fight what you don't understand. So I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to since the divorce, Devin. Devin was Lauren's ex-coworker, someone she used to trash talk all the time. Called her too soft, too sentimental. But Devin had always been kind to me, and she messaged me after the divorce to say she was sorry for what Lauren did. I'd never responded. Now, 6 months later, I dug through my old messages, found hers, and sent a reply. Appreciated your message. Hope you're doing well. Quick question. Did you ever end up at StratEdge Agency? She responded within minutes. Hey Kyle. Wow, long time. Yeah, I'm at StratEdge now. Been here about 4 months. What? Just curious. Heard Lauren tried applying there. Another ping. She did. Came in strong, name dropped all over the place. Didn't go well. Our manager remembered her from a pitch where she undermined the client to their face. Total red flag. Did she know you were there? Yep. Tried to pretend like we were besties. HR wasn't buying it. What's going on? I paused. Just gathering context. Thanks for being honest. Always. You deserve better. That was the first breadcrumb. Lauren's reputation had followed her, and not in a good way. The industry was smaller than she realized, and burning bridges had cost her more than just job offers. Her name had become synonymous with risky hires and unpredictable behavior. Step 2. The public image. Lauren used to live for perception. Her Instagram, her LinkedIn, her social circle, all curated like museum pieces. But now that the pedestal had crumbled, I wondered how much of her world still saw her as the woman who upgraded her life. So I called Marcus. I need a favor, I said. Name it. I want to host something. Quiet, private, but strategic. He chuckled. You mean like a revenge party? Not exactly. More like a soft launch. Let people see what I've built. Let the right people be in the room. Got it. Who's on the guest list? That's where it got fun. I started listing names. Former clients. Industry contacts. A few of Lauren's old colleagues who'd reached out after the divorce. Even Cynthia's former partner at the spa, the one she burned when the audit happened. The goal wasn't to flaunt success. It was to reclaim the narrative. To remind people that I wasn't some quiet guy who got dumped. I was a builder. A leader. Someone they wanted to align with. We planned a rooftop gathering at my new place. Sunset, catered, minimal press. Just enough photos to make their way onto LinkedIn and the social feeds of the right people. Step 3. The chessboard. It wasn't just about Lauren anymore. It was about the whole toxic ecosystem that had enabled her behavior. Cynthia, with her snide remarks and passive-aggressive digs. Logan, with his smug superiority and fragile masculinity. And Lauren, the queen of the show, who thought life was just a sequence of power plays. I started making subtle moves. A contact of mine in real estate mentioned that Logan had been shopping for investment properties but didn't have enough liquid capital since the failed engagement. So I made an anonymous cash offer on a place he was eyeing, just high enough to price him out. When he lost the deal, I heard he blamed the system. I didn't correct him. Cynthia? She'd been trying to open a pop-up version of her spa business in the same shopping district where my company was headquartered. She was in talks with a leasing agent I happened to know personally. I invited the agent to my housewarming. Over drinks, I casually mentioned that Cynthia's last business had been flagged for tax issues and owed back wages to 2 employees. The lease offer was rescinded within the week. But none of it felt as satisfying as it should have, because Lauren was still out there, somewhere in between regret and desperation. And for all the ways I could maneuver behind the scenes, I knew the final act needed to be direct. It had to be personal. She sent another message 2 weeks after the rain incident. I understand if you never want to speak to me again, but I'm not asking for money. I just want you to know I'm sorry. Still, I didn't reply, but I kept the message. Then she called. The number showed up as unknown, but I knew it was her. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Hey, I don't know if you even listened to these, but I had to say this. I was cruel. I know that now. That party. I thought I was making a statement, but all I did was destroy the one person who actually cared about me. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just wanted you to hear that I know what I did. I miss you. Not the money. Not the house. Just you. I listened to it twice. Maybe 3 times. Still didn't respond. Because this wasn't about closure anymore. It was about setting the board for the final play. The party was 2 weeks away. I spent that time tightening every detail. Not just the event, but my image, my company, my circle. I gave interviews. Quiet ones. Business podcasts, startup blogs, nothing flashy. Just enough buzz. just enough movement. And then, without fanfare, I sent out one last invitation. To Lauren. No note. Just a card with my name, the date, and the address. I knew she'd recognize it. I didn't know if she'd come, but if she did, she'd be walking into a room filled with the very people she once used to impress. People who now respected me, not because I was flashy, but because I had built something worth respecting. This wasn't revenge. This was reckoning. The day of the party arrived without drama. I woke up early that morning, the sky still gray from the fading mist of dawn. My house, my mansion, if we're being technical, stood calm and elegant, like it knew something important was about to happen. I walked barefoot across the polished oak floors of my home, coffee in hand, checking last-minute details. The catering staff arrived at noon, the event planner an hour later. By 3, the rooftop garden was transformed into something out of a magazine. Warm string lights, soft jazz playing, candles flickering in hurricane glass. Minimalist perfection. Marcus arrived early, as always. He stood on the balcony in a navy suit, sipping whiskey, his expression half amused, half impressed. Big night, he said. Not for me. I replied, adjusting my cufflinks. It's just a party. He smirked. Right. By 6 p.m., guests began to arrive. Quiet murmurs. Laughter. The clink of glasses. Some I hadn't seen in years. Others were industry heavyweights I'd only recently begun working with. Everyone shook my hand a little longer than usual. Everyone looked at the house a little too long. That was by design. The whispers started early. Have you seen this place? Is this Kyle's? Did you hear about the expansion? I smiled politely, played the host, and offered refills. I wasn't trying to boast. I was just letting the silence speak for itself. At 7:13, she arrived. Lauren. She stepped onto the rooftop in a black dress that looked borrowed. Her hair was tied up, a few strands falling loose in a way that used to feel deliberate. Tonight, it looked accidental. She was thinner than I remembered. Not sickly, just faded. As if the brightness she once carried had flickered out, leaving the frame intact but the soul dulled. She scanned the room until she saw me. Our eyes met across the crowd. She didn't smile. Neither did I. For a moment, the room hushed in my mind. The kind of tunnel vision you get when something irreversible is about to happen. But then the moment passed, and the music, the chatter, the evening continued. I walked over calmly, a glass in each hand. Pinot Noir, I asked, offering one to her. She hesitated, then took it. You look good, she said. So do you, I replied. A lie, maybe. But I didn't need to win on that front. We stood at the edge of the balcony, overlooking the skyline. The same skyline she used to post on Instagram, quoting motivational nonsense about owning your future and upgrading your life. The same skyline that now sat beneath my feet, not hers. Why did you invite me? She asked finally. I took a sip. Because I wanted you to see the view. She didn't speak right away. Then, I'm not going to beg. I already did that. I know. She turned to face me, her voice quieter. I was stupid, Kyle. I thought I needed more. I thought you were holding me back. You didn't just leave, I said. You staged it. You choreographed my humiliation like it was some performance art. She flinched. Good. I know, she whispered. Was it worth it? I asked. Tears welled up in her eyes. She blinked them away quickly, embarrassed. I thought I had it all figured out. The job, the status, the future. She laughed bitterly. Turns out, I had no idea how fragile everything was. I didn't respond. She didn't deserve a comforting word. But I did listen. That much I could offer her. Then she asked the question I'd been waiting for. Is there any part of you that still misses me? And there it was. The opening. I looked at her for a long time. Studied her face. Not the one I fell in love with years ago. That woman was gone. This one, this version, was just the echo of who she used to be. I said. For a while. A pause. But then I realized the version of you I missed never really existed. Her eyes filled again. This time, she didn't blink it away. I thought I was upgrading, she said. That night, it was supposed to be my moment. And now, I lost everything, she said. I live with a friend. I can't get hired anywhere. Even my mom won't return my calls unless I promise her money I don't have. That's not my fault. I know, but I don't know how to move forward. Another opening. And this time, the final one. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. You don't move forward by dragging someone back in. Then I reached into my jacket and pulled out a small, cream-colored envelope. She looked at it, confused. What's this? Your chance. She opened it slowly. Inside was a check. $10,000. Her eyes widened. Kyle, I didn't come here to ask for. It's not a gift, I said, interrupting her. It's payment. For what? I nodded toward the party. This entire event was about perception. You showing up here completes the picture. You came in from the rain. You saw what I built. You were civil. We spoke. It closes the loop. She stared at me, stunned. I needed everyone to see that chapter closed. Not a dramatic fallout. Not a tragic story. Just done. You being here gives me that. The check is compensation for your role in that closure. She held the check like it burned her fingers. You're buying closure? She asked, almost offended. No. I built closure. This is just the receipt. Silence. Then she folded the check, slipped it back in the envelope, and nodded slowly. You really are a different man. No, I said. I'm the same man you underestimated. That's the difference. With that, I turned and walked away. Back to the warmth, the laughter, the people who saw me for who I was, without needing me to shrink to fit their expectations. I didn't look back. Later that night, after the guests had gone and the lights were dimmed, Marcus joined me on the balcony again. Well, he asked. She took the check. He raised an eyebrow. Seriously? Yep. Slipped it in her purse like it weighed 10 pounds. He laughed. You're colder than I thought. I'm not cold, I said, sipping the last of my drink. I'm just finally done playing the fool. And in that quiet moment, overlooking the city that once seemed so far away, I felt something shift. Not vengeance. Not victory. Just peace. The kind of peace that comes when the storm is over, the flood has passed, and you're standing on solid ground. Alone, but free. And that, I realized, was the real upgrade. Not her life. Mine.